What's up, guys? I want to give you guys a breakdown on sort of the scientific principles behind why the Twitch code works so well, what Twitch is, and how we train this trait. So first, quick origin story. When I started as a trainer, I was obsessed with identifying all these traits that matter to build high-level basketball players. And when I started actually working with NBA players, this is probably 15 years ago now, I started to notice some trends, especially in NBA guards. And the trend was I was beating them at all the combine tests. My vertical jump was higher than theirs. My three-quarters court speed was better. My agility times were better. Almost across the board, all the NBA point guards that I was training, I was more athletic than, objectively, right, on these tests. Now, that started making me think, when I go one-on-one with these guys, when I go play pickup or play one-on-one with my clients, they were still getting by me and they were still outperforming me. And it wasn't skill, because you separate the skills. I was shooting as good as them. I can dribble better. I can pass. So every individual component, I was a little bit better. But for some reason, I still had a hard time guarding them. They were still blowing by me, and I had a hard time blowing by them. And I started to realize that there is a trait that some people just refer to as raw quickness. It's brain speed and it's body speed. And I started calling it Twitch because I had this NBA scout come to my gym and start asking questions of, hey, we always identify these players as twitchy. A guy like De'Aaron Fox, a guy like Darius Garland, like they're very, very twitchy, but we don't even know what the heck that means. Does that mean they have a lot of fast twitch muscle fibers? And I started thinking about it, and I realized that twitch is actually a completely different quality than having a lot of fast twitch muscle fibers. There's a lot of guys with a ton of fast twitch muscle fibers who are insanely explosive in jumping and even sprinting, but they lack twitch. They lack raw quickness. Think about a lot of pro dunkers. If you've ever seen pro dunkers play basketball, a lot of them are actually not that quick. They can jump out the gym because they have a lot of fast twitch fibers, but they're not very quick. Conversely, there's a lot of people who have no explosiveness who actually have raw quickness and have that twitch. Think about a guy like Steve Nash. He always won that first step battle with his twitchiness. But he wasn't that fast end to end. He had a low vertical jump. And so I started to realize that it's a nervous system thing. Now, the cool thing about Twitch being a nervous system thing is the nervous system adapts in as little as one session, right? Like changing muscle structure, changing tendons, this takes time. This is 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 16 weeks. Nervous system starts to make adaptations in one session, sometimes in as little as one set. So I started obsessing over this trait of twitch and how to train it. And all of our NBA guards started getting really, really good results. And I was applying it to myself. And all of a sudden, I was no longer a defensive liability. I could go out at 5'10", 5'11", and play really, really good defense against high-level NBA players because I could just beat them to the spot. I was just a step quicker. And so let's dive in a little bit into what Twitch actually is. So if you see right here in this picture, I'm in that circle. It's highlighted red. This is our Twitch zone. So Twitch zone is kind of like a 3x3 radius around your body. And whoever wins the battle in this circle is the twitchier athlete. Now, outside of that circle, steps 2 through 5 is going to be explosiveness or early acceleration. So that is that purple zone, all right? And then that green zone is our end-to-end speed. So this is like the LeBron Jameses of the world who could just get end-to-end so fast. All very different qualities, and they're trained differently. So a lot of times in programs, strength and conditioning coaches will get information passed down from track and field where it's all about force. All that matters is force in the ground. And the reason that misinterpretation is there is because in track and field, that's largely true. You're starting in the perfect position for a 100-meter sprinter. You're starting with 2 great shin angles. You're starting with your torso angle. All you got to do is apply a lot of force really quickly into the blocks to get out. But in basketball, it's not that simple. I might be starting in a disadvantageous position. How quickly do I drop into position to achieve those shin angles, to achieve that torso angle, and then produce the force? And so that's why this 3x3 radius is actually twitchiness. And we're going to go in a little bit more in detail on the different components of that. But first, I want you to understand that that 3x3 radius is not strictly about force. So doing a bunch of weight room exercises and even doing plyometrics is missing the mark in terms of twitchiness. Those are great for explosiveness. Those are even great for end-to-end speed. Twitch is very different, and we have to train it very differently. So 4 components of twitch, and there's more to it, but let's simplify it. 1, perception and action. 2, speed of neural impulse. 3, footwork. And 4, first step. Let's dive into each of those components individually. So first component, perception and action. So let's think about this as the brain speed, right? In training, we all obsess over the body speed, and why I was getting blown by these NBA point guards, even though all my tests were better, is I had better body speed. I didn't have better brain speed. Their brain was a lot quicker than mine. So perception action, how quickly can I recognize that you're about to drive to the basket? How quickly can I recognize that you're dropping into this cross and you're gonna go right? And then how quickly can I actually react to that? So there is the reaction component to perception action and then the anticipation component. Reaction can be trained through general means. So I could do a tennis ball drill, a coach or a partner could point in a certain direction and I sprint that direction. There's a lot of ways to train general reaction. I like doing fit lights and all of this stuff. Even just like a basic mirror drill where I'm just mirroring another body, right? We do some of this stuff in the Twitch code. Anticipation is different. Anticipation cannot be trained through general means. We need highly specific means. Anticipation is like how quickly can you recognize sport-specific visual clues and then paint the picture of what's going to happen next. So you're seeing the game a step ahead, right? And so the more you've seen somebody drop into a position with the right leg forward and the left leg back and the ball in the right hand, the more you've seen that, the more you recognize, oh, he's going to either explode right or he's going to bring that left foot forward and cross back to the left. And so now instead of infinite possibilities, you've narrowed it down to 2. And so now the actual, what he actually does, the reaction is just going to be the icing on the cake, right? And they talk about this, there's some good books on baseball players and how if you're reacting to the flight of the ball, it's too late. 100-mile-per-hour fastball, too fast. You can't react to it. You start making up your mind based on how the ball is being held in the hand and the release point. And so if you've seen that, if you've seen a pitcher enough times, you know based on how they snap their hand, their release point, you know, or you have a good idea of where that pitch is going to end up. So like 80% of your mind is already made up on where it's going to end up. Now the flight of the ball is the extra 20%. That's the icing on the cake, right? So anticipation skills have to be trained through sport-specific activities. So this is one of the huge components to Twitch, speeding up our brain. We have some unique ways to train this in the Twitch code, and I'm telling you, your brain speed gets so much faster even just after a couple weeks of doing this. Now, outside of the Twitch code training, watching film matters because you're picking up on patterns. Playing against fast athletes matter. Playing against good ball handlers as a defender matters because you're building up this database where you've now seen every type of move. So when you see it again, you can react a little bit faster, right? So that is part of the brain speed. The next part is the speed of neural impulses. So when the nervous system, when my brain says go, how long does it take for the muscles to actually receive that signal and go? I had a player, Tyus Jones, who's one of the most pure, solid point guards in the NBA right now, leads the league in assist to turnover ratio. Brain speed is through the roof, perception action through the roof. But in pre-draft, he was telling me, like, I know exactly where somebody's going to go. I see plays before they happen. However, when my brain tells my legs to go, sometimes they're stuck on the ground. Sometimes they just don't go. And so that's when I started to realize you could have all the perception, but the action component of how quickly can I get that signal to my legs to actually move, that is a trainable trait. And so with Tyus, we did a lot of this twitch code work, and he made a really big jump. He went and got Summer League MVP, and he was like, I'm so much quicker. I'm going against other guards who normally are way better than me and blow by me, and now I'm holding my own defensively. And so we took somebody who lacked that twitch because of the speed of the neural impulses. We did a lot of the twitch code work, and he still continues to do it on his own. And that was one of the big difference makers in allowing him to not be a defensive liability, to having enough athleticism to go out and play with these guys. And then from there, his IQ and his skill thrives, and that's why he's such a solid point guard. There are differences in speed of neural impulses. There's feed forward, and then there's feed back. So feed forward is like, I have all the time in the world, my brain is gonna tell my legs to go, and then I go. So think about offensively, like you know you're gonna go right, and you just set it up, and then how quickly can I send that neural impulse and actually go? Feedback is a little bit different. So think about, it's less central nervous system, more peripheral nervous system. So what does that mean? If I'm going to take a step, and let's say I'm striking too far on the outside edge, and I'm in a compromised position where I might potentially sprain my ankle, I have these proprioceptors in every joint and in the fascia, and it is identifying that I'm about to sprain my ankle. My brain doesn't know, my eyes don't see it, I'm not looking down. The proprioceptors say, hey dude, I'm in a really weird position. How quickly can it send the signal back to the brain? And then the brain and the spinal cord are sending signals back to the ankle to correct. Think about how quick that has to happen. This is less than a millisecond. So not only is the twitch work that we do in the program beneficial for getting faster, it's one of the top things for injury reduction, because it's speeding up the speed of the neural impulses and the speed at which our proprioceptive system can send signals back up to the central nervous system, and then how quickly we can send signals back down to the area to then correct. All right, so that's feed forward versus feedback mechanisms. We work on both in the program. I would say speed of neural impulses is one of the hardest qualities to improve, but it can be improved with the right training. This isn't something that's just going to automatically happen for you. You need deliberate practice. You need a specific plan to be able to take your twitch to another level. Again, speed of neural impulses is not related to the total amount of fast twitch fibers. It would be great to have a ton of fast twitch fibers. Awesome. However, I've seen people without a lot of fast twitch fibers who do have a ton of twitch. A guy like James Harden, pretty good in the fast twitch area. Like, he can jump, he has underrated balance, he has underrated explosiveness, but his twitch is next level. And when I started working with him, right when he got to Houston, I noticed that his athleticism overall was pretty good, but we wanted to improve the twitch, and then we wanted to improve the deceleration. And we kind of doubled down on those qualities, and he just took over the league, right? Not saying that was all me, like this is his work, but if I'm the extra 1% of helping him train smarter and identifying qualities where he could separate himself, I think a lot of the twitch work that we did with him made a huge difference. You could just see when he gets to his between cross, the moment somebody reaches, he identifies it so quickly. So if you reach here, boom, he's attacking that hand, swiping down, attacking lead leg. That's not explosiveness. That's not speed. That's not fast twitch fibers. That's a nervous system thing. That's twitch. Speed of neural impulses is also related to the skill of the specific movement. So the more you do a specific movement, the quicker it becomes, right? It goes from conscious brain, I have to think about it, to subconscious, where my body just naturally does these processes. And it's also related to contract relax abilities. You hear people, strength coaches, mention contract relax, and they try to build in the weight room with like contract relax squats. That's great, but in sports, contract relax is happening so much quicker and in much more complex patterns. You can only contract as quickly as you can relax, right? So when you contract the muscle fiber, you then need to be able to relax that muscle fiber in order to then contract it again. And so athletes who have more neuromuscular coordination with this ability to contract and relax really, really quickly and in a very coordinated fashion, they are the twitchiest athletes. The next component of twitch is footwork. So footwork is essentially, to simplify it, where you place your feet in relation to your center of mass. All right, so let's say I'm in a wide stance, right? My hips are here, my legs are going out like this. I have two shin angles going inwards. If the offensive player goes this way, I can't move from that position. If I'm gonna try to do a cross run to stick with them, then this shin has to reposition, so I need to reposition the foot right underneath the hip to develop this shin angle in order to push this way, all right? So that is an example of footwork defining our speed. And so this is a huge component of twitch, is it's not just about the force that I put in the ground, it's how quickly can I reposition that foot underneath the hip. So there's the quickness component to these repositioning steps, and then there's the coordination component. In the Twitch Code, we'll have you doing closeout drills where we actually start you from the most awkward position. So we start you in an awkward stance with your hand down touching the cone. The offensive player is going to go, and how quickly can I flip the hips, get the foot underneath the hip to then push me out? So a lot of people, if they're in the perfect position, they're really, really explosive. But if they have to generate a shin angle and do these quick repositioning steps, they don't have the coordination and the quickness. This is where you separate yourself from that raw quickness and from that twitch standpoint. And then the last component of twitch is the actual first step, all right? So I got the perception action, right? I identified he's going in this direction. I have the brain speed. I have the neural impulses. The brain sends signals to the legs or to the lower body, and I have the ability to be coordinated and quick in being able to reposition my foot to now be in the position to go, okay? Now is where force and angles of force production come into play. So first step is going to be angles of force production and magnitude of force production. So the more force I apply in the horizontal direction, the faster I'm going to move forward, all right? So a few things that we look at for first step explosiveness. Do we have the requisite mobility to get optimal angles? Everybody has slightly different structures, and so not all of us are going to be Kyrie level shin angles. Some of us are going to be a little bit more upright. Typically, athletes do have the requisite mobility. The only times they don't is like previous injury, like a previous ankle injury and your ankle's just locked up. We need to restore that ankle range of motion in order to then get the shin to drop. Otherwise, if that shin doesn't drop, we don't apply force in the horizontal direction. And then we apply a lot of force in the vertical direction and we go more up instead of forward. Do we have enough high speed strength to handle the angles? And so high speed strength, like how much force can I apply in 0.1 seconds or 0.2 seconds? So this is something that is very trainable. This is something that we have to train. And this is a combination of the twitch work. This is a combination of plyometrics, jump training, as well as conventional strength training. And then the other thing that we have to look at is, do I have an explosive first step in all directions? Curvilinearly, laterally, linearly, backwards. I need to be able to move in all directions really, really quickly. So something you got to understand about the Twitch Code is we're training in multiple directions to make you a better mover in all directions. And that helps you get more blow-bys. That helps you defensively. If you're a football player, you're a cornerback, this is like the number one thing, is just this overall twitchiness and moving backwards and laterally and being able to flip the hips and turn and run. And so this actually helps for all sports, not just basketball. So let's wrap this up. I know I'm losing the attention span of a lot of the athletes out there. The coaches are probably interested, but the athletes in the program, we don't go as far into the science. I give you the what, where, when, and why. I show you exactly how to do every exercise, when to do it, sets and reps, and that's what you need to know as an athlete. It's nice to know why you're doing it, but that's mostly for coaches that need to understand the science and the details. So if you're ready to sign up for the program, let's get you going. I'm telling you, it's 15 minutes a day, so it's not a huge commitment. Some sessions are even shorter. It's 10 to 15 minutes, and it's 3 days per week. And so you can just use it as your warm-up, Or you could use it after a session, but I love it as a central nervous system warm-up. Like, you feel so amped, whether you're going into a game, a practice, or just going into a strength workout. This is one of the best warm-ups you can do. Some people say, well, I want it to be longer. I want to do 45 minutes a day. Twitch is built in small doses with little to no fatigue. All right, so I don't want this to be something that beats you down and makes you tired and interferes with your other training. We want it to be short and efficient every single day without fatigue interfering. This helps you in any sport. So if you're a football player, if you're a soccer player, huge for soccer. If you're a basketball player, of course. Again, a lot of times for these NBA point guards, this is one of the deciding factors. People will talk about how NBA players are just built different. Like, their athleticism is just at a whole nother level. It's not always the skill level that differentiates a D2 athlete from an NBA player. But a lot of times people go, well, hey, I have to be 6'4", I got to be 6'5", because these point guards are so big these days. Well, yes, you have to be tall if you're not insanely quick. If you're insanely quick and you have the twitch, you can be small. You could be Kyrie Irving, 6'2", 6'1". He's listed at 6'2". He came to my house last summer and I was standing by him. I took a picture with him and he's like an inch taller than me. He might be 6 foot. And so, you know, some of these players, they're not as big as you think, but these players that are under 6'4", they're insanely quick. And that's a combination of brain speed and body speed. And I think this program is just going to take you to a whole nother level athletically. All right, guys, I'll see you on the program.